interview today. This time is with another PhD student, and this is Hollie K. She's a PhD candidate, candidate in the University of Bolton in the Department of Psychology. Good morning, how are you today?
Morning, I'm good, thank you. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you. Apparently I need to put my teeth in this morning. Oh, crikey. How are you? So, I keep looking behind me and thinking it looks like I've got some kind of divine intervention going on.
It's good, like... it's the Friday feeling, we love it.
Oh, yes, maybe that is.
It's coming through the window for you.
Have you seen that dance on TikTok? It's Friday then.
Yeah, love it.
Maybe that's how we need to just...
Perfect. Introduce ourselves that way.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you so much for chatting to me. So, as you know, we are talking to lots of different people, academics and PhD students, about their academic journey. So that's pretty much the first question. So, how has your academic journey been for you? I really do need to put my teeth back in. How's education been for you?
Yeah, I think it's been okay. So, sort of going back to school, you could maybe say possibly above average, like I did okay. Languages was always my area, so I got like A stars and A's in French and Spanish, and I really could do that like in my sleep. Like I didn't need to really put much effort into that at all. So if you had to say there was like an area that was, you know, I was meant to be doing, it's definitely that. Everything else was like fine. You know, I did quite well in my GCSEs. College was a bit of a weird one, so I just went to my school's sixth form college. I hated it. So I chose pretty academic A levels to start with. I chose Spanish, psychology, sociology, and graphics as like a little bit of a downtime. I hated Spanish. There was no one in my class that I liked. And saying that now feels really silly. But at the time, I really hated going to these Spanish lessons because you'd get paired up for conversations. And I was just like, oh, I don't know anyone. I don't like it. And psychology, ironically, was even worse. I could not get my head around psychology at A level. So I ended up dropping both of those. I dropped psychology, I dropped Spanish, and I did photography, which even now is the funniest thing to me that I dropped it to do photography. Kind of just got through the 2 years at college, and then it kind of came to like UCAS time, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to bother with uni. And my mum and dad were like, okay, so what we doing then? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And obviously my dad's worked sort of from the bottom to quite high up in his job, so he was very much like, you know, we need a plan. So I was like, I was very, very lost at the end of sort of UCAS time, you know, midway through year 13. And I had no idea what I was doing. And my dad literally just said, you know, let's go to Bolton Uni Open Day. And I was like, yeah, right, whatever. And I really reluctantly went to an open day with my dad. And we were flicking, I remember we were sat just in the main entrance, like flicking through a course catalogue. And he was like pointing at graphics, photography. And I was like, oh, I don't think I can sit and do that for another few years. Like, I'm really not interested. So I carried on flicking through and I was like, oh, psychology and counselling. Like, that sounds really great. Despite dropping psychology, I thought that was just what I should be doing. So applied for that. Obviously got on the course. Loved the course. I don't know what the difference is between A-level study and degree level study, but there's obviously something because I loved it. Literally from start to finish, the whole 3 years was amazing, really interesting, and got a first, which was great. Then went on to do the masters, which was a bit rocky, but I still enjoyed it. And then after about a year out, I kind of got the itch again, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back and do a PhD. So that's where we are at the moment.
Wow, that is really interesting. I tell you what's really interesting is when I've spoken to other people, they tend to struggle during high school and then come into themselves in college, but it's the other way around for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really well in high school.
Yeah.
So what do you think the difference is? Was your college attached to your school, or was it
Yes.
separate? It was?
Yeah, it was attached. And I remember having deep conversations with my mum and dad, and they were like, go somewhere else, like go to a different college. And I was like, no, my friends are at Turton, like that's exactly where I'm staying. So that's where I stayed. And probably now I think maybe I should have gone somewhere else. But yeah, the sixth form, the whole 2 years of sixth form, I hated, really hated.
Oh. See,
Yeah.
now that sounds not weird. It sounds even more sort of alien to me. The fact that it was attached to your school, you feel like it would, I don't know, you would get on just as well because you've been there for 5 years, so to stay in the same environment. I was expecting you to say no, it was separate and it was all new people.
No, it was a very weird couple of years. I think obviously because you get a little bit of freedom, don't you? You can kind of leave the building a bit, and you know, I didn't go off the rails. I've never gone off the rails at all, but like maybe I'd miss a few lessons, and then my head was not in it at all. I think because I didn't have really a direction or know what I wanted to do, I was just winging it. And like I say, up until the point of apply, I didn't actually apply at UCAS time. I applied a lot later. I think I had like 3 days to apply for uni. And I remember just being like, yeah, fine, I'll just, whatever, because there's no plan. And I'm just really lucky that I kind of fell into psychology, love it. And I've built like a whole career and academic sort of background on it as well.
Yeah, I find it hilarious, like you said, that you dropped it at A level. I really can't speak today. I really need to get out. You dropped it at A level, and then that's what you're studying, and now you're doing your PhD in it. But it's really different, isn't it? It is really different at university. I mean, I didn't do A levels, but from what I've been told, it's very different teaching.
Yeah, it was just really, really bizarre. And I think the jump, I've always said that A levels are the hardest thing I've ever done, which is really weird because obviously I'm now at PhD level, but it's still not as difficult as A levels. Yeah. And I don't quite know why myself, if it's a combination of things or if it's just maybe a bigger jump from GCSE to A level. But A levels were without a doubt the hardest thing I've ever done. Yeah. And I don't think they necessarily prepare you to go in from high school to A level. I think I remember sort of GCSE results day, and I was dead interested in history, and I did it at GCSE, and I only got a C, and I was like, okay, fair enough. And I remember being like, I want to do history, and they were like, I don't think you're quite going to make that jump, like from your GCSE C to passing an A level. So I didn't do that. So I kind of just picked other things, and it just, it was a weird time.
Wonder how they could have made that better. Because was it different teachers, or was it?
It was a couple of different teachers, but a lot of similar faces. I think for me, maybe I just chose the wrong subjects and the freedom and not having a really clear direction. I think having the direction is really probably crucial, but then at 16, like I had no idea what I wanted to do.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, you just kind of lost.
Yeah, my son's 13, and he's been asked to choose his options now. I'm like, when I was that age, when I chose my options, I chose French and German, because I thought I was going to be an air hostess, and it sounded cool.
Love it.
Know something else. But then my journey from then, couldn't have been more different, and I've reinvented myself as an adult. So I just think we put a lot of pressure on kids.
Yeah, totally. Like the pressure to know what you want to do, definitely. Even when I chose my degree, I remember I hadn't even heard of clinical psychology when I chose my degree. And I remember, I think it's maybe first or early second year, you have like a career management module. And I remember it was a lot of like, you can do this with psychology, you do this, or you could be a clinical psychologist. And I was like, oh, that sounds really good. So then I kind of focused on more like, your mental health kind of job, which is what I'm doing now. But it was maybe like at least a year into my degree that I thought, yeah, that's where I want to go.
Yeah. I think I can completely relate to that. I know when I came to Bolton to do my degree, I didn't know why I was doing it. I was doing it because psychology was interesting, and for me it was because of life events that had happened. It was almost, I did PPC as well, so it was more about trying to counsel myself and learn more about what had happened to me. And
Yeah.
it's only as I've progressed through the 3 years that suddenly a light bulb's gone off, and I'm like, oh, I know what I want to be when I grow up now.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It definitely happens, I think, at uni, because you've kind of maybe grown up a little bit and left the horrible A levels behind, and you're like, oh, I like this, I enjoy this. Luckily, I enjoyed it anyway, because, like I say, it was picked at random.
That is really random.
Yeah.
Just the chance of an open day.
Yeah.
What was it you loved about Bolton?
Literally everything, from start to finish. The staff are just amazing. All of them, I think, across psychology from start to finish. Like the beginning of the degree, obviously there's been a few changed faces, but I think it's a place where, yes, they're good staff, they know their stuff. The lectures have always been really interesting. All the kind of stuff you'd expect from somewhere academic. But I just think there's a level at Bolton of, like, you know, they want you to do well. They will kind of bend over backwards to make sure you do well. If there's anything wrong, they're going to bend over backwards to try and do what they can. I think Bolton, I remember another thing at my A levels. I said, oh, I'm gonna go to Bolton Uni. And I remember one of my sociology teachers being like, you're a bit better than that, aren't you? And I was like, right, okay, fair enough. But it's honestly where I wanted to go. I thought, well, I don't want to move away from home. And she was like, well, why not Manchester? And I was like, well, why do I want to pay for a train every day? And it's honestly the best decision I've ever made. Anyone I come across, I fully am like advocating Bolton Uni. I remember at my old job, a couple of people were thinking of applying for unis, sort of Salford, Manchester, Bolton. And I was like, just go to Bolton. I am the biggest fan of, obviously I can't speak for any other places, but psychology department, amazing, like love them.
Yeah, I think I could agree with that. I think once you're in the psychology department at Bolton, you do become Team Bolton.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You really do. And it's interesting because you look at places like Warwick, 25 years ago, they were not a Russell group. So what could happen to Bolton in 25
Exactly.
years? And then maybe those snobby comments will turn away.
I know, literally, I thought about it for maybe 5 minutes and I was like, no, I want to go to Bolton. And it's been the best decision for me personally. And obviously there's just no getting rid of me now because I just keep going back.
I know, that's it. You're gonna be there forever. What are you gonna stay at Bolton afterwards, do you think? Do a postdoc?
Well, probably. I'll be there. My dad says it a lot. My dad's like, I see you at Bolton Uni for a long time. And I'm like, great, that's fine. Love it.
Why not? So tell me about your research. What area have you chosen?
So my research at the moment for my PhD sort of carries on from what I did at my master's. So I'm looking at psychosis and post-traumatic growth. So a lot of the research into growth kind of looks at, like natural disasters, things that are really serious in that kind of way, maybe domestic violence, maybe serious illness, loss, but there's not an awful lot in terms of complex mental illness. So me and Jerome are looking at psychosis as the trauma, whether that be, one period of psychosis or a prolonged illness. I'm currently reviewing a lot of papers. I will then be interviewing people to kind of see, get their experiences very similar to this, just having really, open chats with them about it. And then hopefully at the end, we will find some kind of model, to see what we can try and how we can try and increase growth and, these life experiences of people who've had psychosis, because a lot of the research at the moment, it's really bleak reading. And I, coming from a mental health working background, have seen this happen to people, and, it can ruin people's lives forever. So I feel really passionate about trying to make something better for at least one person, if they can grow as a result of it, or not even grow, just have something positive at the end of it. That's kind of where I want to be in terms of my research at the end.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think the interesting thing about these areas is it's all very medicalized, and I think we are slowly starting to move away from medicalizing everything to do with mental health. And I think research into anything trauma related and growth, we can show that there are other ways to achieve that growth and to move through that trauma without throwing pills at you.
Yeah, 100%. Like there's loads of things that can be done. And I agree with you. I think over medicalizing is probably really awful. And also expecting that there's going to be, you know, a really set path that people go through. You know, you get diagnosed, you do this, you feel better, you're fine.
Yeah.
It isn't like that. You know, trauma is really subjective.
Yeah.
So why do we not treat recovery the exact same? It would look different to me, to you, to any other person. So we need to sort of be individualized with it and treat people uniquely, I think.
It's like the grief cycle, isn't it? There was a very clear stages that you go through, and thankfully what they recognised was that can change and you can flip backwards and forwards through the cycles. The cycles are still there, but it's not prescribed, and it's kind of, you know, how it works for you. And I think that was a good thing, and that's what we need to get to when it comes to trauma, is recognising what types of things can cause trauma. And it can be anything. It can be the loss of a pet. It can be going to Afghanistan right now. Look how terrible that is. It can be domestic abuse. It could be getting an injury. There's so many different ways that a trauma response can happen, and you don't need to just throw a pill at it.
No.
And it's about acceptance, isn't it? It's about accepting what that person's going through and not having the sarcastic, oh, have you got mental health?
Yeah.
You know, it's the impact. It's unreal. I was reading something really interesting recently to do with, I use this analogy a lot. I say to people when I'm trying to explain my research, you know, if I had a broken leg, you can see that my leg is broken. But if I've got a broken head, you can't see it. And I was reading something recently, and a psychologist was arguing we shouldn't use that because it's not the same. And I agree it's not the same, but I don't really know how else to explain it to someone.
Yeah.
You know, things like, you know, I could have broken my leg as a child and I have no issues. I can go running marathons, but every now and then I get a pain in my leg because it's still where it, you know, it was broken originally and it still might have a little bit of an issue. And certainly as I get older, it might hurt every now and then. And that's the same thing with trauma. You might come through it. You might feel that, you know, you have got post-traumatic growth and, you know, you are recovering well. But every now and then there's a trigger or there's something that just sets you back into a bit of a dark place.
Yeah.
And that's just like, for me, having that injury. And it's trying to get people to understand what mental health and trauma actually is. It's not a negative. It's not something that is just medicalized. I know I do agree with medical treatments at times. You know, I had to have antidepressants for a period of time, but I think it should be like pain relief, you know, for that broken leg. You take it for a period of time until it's recovered. And that's what I did. And of course that doesn't necessarily work for everybody, and it's accepting it doesn't work for everybody, but it's having those kind of baselines, isn't it? I just don't know how we necessarily change society's view on it. Certainly the medical profession. That's the big one, doctors. You know, you have somebody sitting there. You have and that's where your model comes in. You have somebody sitting there who talks about something like this. It's for them to be able to look at a model and go, okay, then maybe they need some sort of talking therapy. Let's get more out of them first. Ask questions, and let's not just launch pills at them, because that just numbs you. That just sort of stunts you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for changing the way medical professionals treat anyone with a mental health problem. I used to work with personality disorder, and you know, some of the things I've witnessed by medical professionals, you just think you don't know what's going on here. And I think that's something I feel very passionate about doing in the future, is, you know, providing a level of training to medical professionals, because they sometimes do more harm than good. And I think, you know, if you're suffering with any mental health problem, whether that be a trauma-based situation or something like personality disorder or anything in between, if you're at the point where you're going for help, that help is, you know, it's crucial. We need to make sure someone doesn't roll their eyes at you or, you know, not really get it. And I do feel very passionately about that.
Or give you an unnecessary label, because as we know, borderline personality disorder, women tend to be the demographic that are always categorized as having BPD.
Yeah.
And you look back into the history, it's about hysterical females.
Yeah.
So just, somebody's presented who is hysterical, whatever that word is, and suddenly this label's launched at you, when actually that person could be suffering from some kind of trauma. She doesn't have a disorder.
No.
Or he doesn't have a disorder, because I know it does still happen, but it's about asking those deeper questions, isn't it? And seeing, but then you've got the catch-22 that sometimes you need that label in our society these days to get the treatment, which is even sadder.
It's it's a difficult line to sort of walk, isn't it? Because like you say, you need it, but you also really don't. It's I think definitely a lot needs to change. And like, it's great that people, starting to talk about mental health, and, there's a lot more conversations going on, but overall there's still a way to go, I think. A
huge way to go, definitely. And I think the younger generations are probably helping with that. I think they are far more receptive to mental health. But then again, I worry. My son comes home sometimes and he's like, "Oh, I'm just so stressed, Mum. I've got so much mental health right now." And I do wonder, well, there's another balance between what is real life and normal and kind of what you have to cope with, and what actually pushes it up that notch onto what is stress and what is mental health. It's a fine balance, isn't it?
I think this is where maybe the clinical diagnosis will come back, because you might need it for people. Like you say, it's thrown around a lot now, isn't it? Oh, I suffer with anxiety. And you're like, do you? Is it just a bit of nerves? Is it that normal every day? We all suffer with anxiety, like a job interview, you have anxiety. That doesn't mean you have an anxiety disorder. Oh. But I think maybe that's where with the younger generation, while they're doing a lot for talking and open conversations, maybe it will need to be a thing in time where it's like, okay, but this is the baseline of like normality, and where we go from there is a clinical diagnosis.
Oh, definitely. I don't want it to be an overused phrase, because then if you use it too much, you just lose the impact of it.
Yeah, of course. And I think that makes it hard for people who actually do struggle with like a generalized anxiety disorder. And you have people just going around, "I've got anxiety," and you're like, they genuinely struggle with the functioning in everyday life. It kind of, while it might normalize anxiety, it kind of invalidates their experiences and their struggles.
Yeah, it certainly does. It weakens it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So have you any plans for the future past your PhD? What do you think? What are you going to be when you grow up?
When I grow up, I would like, I'm laughing saying it already. I would like to do clinical psychology. So go on and do obviously the other doctorate that you can do. But yeah, it's a very off-putting kind of process applying for that, because obviously it's so oversubscribed. I think everyone wants to be a clinical psychologist.
Where would you look at for that? Do they do it at Bolton?
They don't do it at Bolton. I'm waiting. Like, if the day comes, I'll just stay at Bolton. But at the moment, I think the nearest one is Manchester. I've looked at Liverpool, and I liked Liverpool, but obviously I'm very much a Bolton girl at heart. So if they want to introduce a clinical psychology doctorate, that would be amazing.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, that's the plan for the future. I applied once, and I obviously didn't get on, which was very fine. I applied probably too early, because the list of things they want from you is like extensive. So this is kind of why I've gone through the academic PhD route first, just to see, if I can sort of study at this level, because I still don't know even now. I've done a year, but it's a jump. So to have this sort of experience, I think will be invaluable if I do go on to do the clinical doctorate and finally get back to working on wards, which will be really nice, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the good thing about education, isn't it? You just follow your path, and you see what comes up, and it's different for everybody. There are very few places on clinical psychology, I understand that, but you never know what might come up in the next couple of years that you could.
No, this is true. Yeah, and I think the thing about education is that I think my story kind of is very much making it up as I go along. And I think you can do that. And I've had the freedom to sort of change jobs and stuff because of my education while still completing my education. And I think I'm quite happy to wing it, because I'm enjoying both parts of my job and my My teeth have
You
gone
can't
now.
talk now.
Yeah, that's it. It's catching. I'm enjoying my education and, my PhD. I'm enjoying my job, and I've kind of got the freedom to wing it and just carry on doing that. And education's given me that freedom.
It gives you that growth, doesn't it? Using that word again. I think you do have the space and the time, and I don't know if that is just something that's more Bolton centric, but I don't feel pressured.
No.
And I wonder if I was at a Red Brick or if I was at a Russell Group University, if it would be far more pressured.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that they're there, that they feed into you, but you don't have to. I don't know. You do have deadlines, but you don't have to tick all these boxes. You're giving that space to spread your wings.
Yeah, I feel like you're less churned out as a number at Bolton. So I think basically all of my friends have degrees, and their experiences are obviously fine. They've all enjoyed it. They've all kind of got to where they want to get. But I think at Bolton, you are kind of treated like a person. You're not treated as, your student number and you will do this, you'll graduate, it's very much like a nice process to be treated like that. Yeah.
Collaboration. Yeah. They treat you as a person, don't they? Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I love it. Like I say, I'm very glad I ignored the sociology teacher and can't rate Bolton highly enough, in my opinion.
We've gone right back to that. It's like a Team Bolton interview. We should have Bolton in the background.
Yeah, we should definitely. We could have T-shirts.
There is something in it though, and I think we was talking again to somebody else the other day about choosing universities and how do you choose them. And for me, I think it depends on a lot of things. I was a bit older when I came back to university, so I have a house and a family. I can't just move away. Mm-hmm. So I had to choose somewhere that was quite local. And when I went to Bolton, I was absolutely blown away by your director of studies, actually. His kind of presentation just captured me.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's a small university and the fact that they just felt really personable. And I think that's what the key is, isn't it? It's knowing that you can go onto T2 at any point and knock on a door.
Yes.
And they'll say, come on in.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd get that somewhere else. In fact, I know you wouldn't get that. I've spoken to people at different unis. You don't get that. You have to make appointments weeks, months in advance. And
and that's just not something I don't think anyone who's been to Bolton would ever say they've had to wait a ridiculous amount of time to speak to someone about, anything from personal to, work related, whatever. It is a really lovely place to be.
Yeah, it is. How do you find your education is different at Bolton in comparison? I know you said your A-levels were harder, but do you think it's just the fact that you've got a bit older and it's just at a different level?
I think maybe it was just the interest I had from when I started.
But you were interested in high school. So I'm trying to reconcile that in my head, because you were interested in high school and you did really well. Where did your interest go? Was it just that A-level dip, really?
Where did my interest go? That's a good question. I wonder if it was just a dip. I think maybe, I don't remember ever being particularly interested in anything at A-level. Like I said, the graphics and photography were really much like a free-for-all. We just used to sit with music on and we'd, do a bit of editing on Photoshop. But I don't remember ever being interested like I was when I came to uni. I think GCSE, I was quite lucky. I could have tried harder, definitely. I think I maybe would have been an A-star across the board if I'd really, really tried. So I maybe gave 80% and got A-stars, A's, B's, and a couple of C's. So I did well, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I bummed the A-levels, because I didn't. I did well in GCSEs. I did okay in A-levels. I just don't remember being interested like I was when I came to Bolton. And I was, from the word go, I was interested in what I was doing. And there seemed to be more of a point to it when I came to uni, because I think I'd decided to do that. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want to be doing as a career. I want to do this. And getting older, I think, helps as well.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. I don't think I could have done it at 18. I don't think I could have done. I really don't. I wasn't interested. Although ironically, I joined the police at 19. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
I know. So that doesn't seem to make sense, does it? I don't think I could do education at 18, but I joined the police at 19.
That's mad.
I know. It just I don't know. I think I've needed a little bit longer, a little bit more a little bit more life education
Yeah.
before I learned, if that made sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
I hated education, hated school. I was always one of those kids who she could do really well if she shuts up.
Brilliant.
And I just couldn't because I just wasn't interested. Nobody really engaged me. The only thing I was ever good at was sport. But back when I did that, so I left school in 1995, a little bit longer, long time ago. And you probably weren't even born then, don't tell me.
I was. You're all good.
Oh.
I was born in 94.
Oh man, yeah, I love these interviews. Yeah, so I left in 95, but in 95 there was no real kind of sport GCSE or A level.
Yeah.
It was just something you did.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now it's very different, isn't it? You can really progress
Yeah.
sport. So the one thing I was really good at, I couldn't do at all.
Oh, that's awful. I believe they've changed it a little bit like that now, though. You have to pick specific sort of tiers of options, don't you? I know my cousin struggled quite a bit.
Well, I'm at that stage with my son, so I think I'll figure that out in the next year, hopefully,
Yeah.
how do we work it. And I hope it is different because he's very much like me. He's really switched on. Just can't keep his trap shut. And he's I don't know why I'm pointing like he's sat there because he's really not. But I feel like that's where I need to say my son is right now because that's the direction of his bedroom.
Perfect. There we go.
Yeah, I really hope because he's the type of person who is never going to go and do sort of maths, English, A levels, but he's very good at practical subjects, and I just hope that he can progress that because that wasn't what I had.
I think there should be a lot more of that, in my opinion, though. And I know I feel quite lucky that everything worked out for me. And, I went to the open day and I chose this and it's worked out really well. But actually, if it hadn't have worked out, I would have probably just got a rubbish job. And, but how long ago was that? 10 years ago. I'd have probably worked up a little bit and I might be maybe a manager. But actually, you kind of taught, well, especially when I was at school, I think it's maybe changed a little bit. But if you're doing, it was very much like, if you're doing a BTEC or an MVQ, you're like a lesser citizen, like you're not as clever. But actually, some of the most successful people I know did hairdressing, and they've opened businesses and they're employing people and they're doing amazing. And I think it's really important to not go down you must go A levels, uni, amazing job, because it isn't like that. No, and for some people, that just isn't the way forward. And I do think I've been lucky because I was one of them really lost souls when I was doing my A levels who just didn't have a clue at all.
So that's really interesting because I guess I sit here and think somebody who did really well at GCSE and you still did really well at A levels, how can you be a lost soul? But you can.
Yeah.
Just because you can do that doesn't mean you're then going to get that amazing job or know where you need to be.
Yeah.
You can still be just as lost as perhaps I was. I ended up on a BTEC. And again, 1995, BTECs were kind of the lower of society, which is hilarious when I'm now doing a PhD. It's like I was treated so badly and I just didn't engage in education. I just kind of did it because it's what you were told to do.
Yeah, I had a friend who was doing A levels at the same place as me, and she was doing like really, really, really clever. I think there was like a maths and a chemistry thrown in there, and it was just not going well. So she made the decision to go to Bolton College and do a BTEC. I can't remember what it was, but she dropped out. She left the A levels behind, and she's a solicitor now, so she's obviously doing fine. And I think that's the thing you need to. There should definitely be more of a focus on like take the path that's right for you. Like it does not have to be A levels for everyone and this path that's set out. I think vocational stuff is amazing. BTECs are amazing. Yeah.
It's
and a bit more
archaic, isn't it, our education?
Yeah. Oh, totally. 100%.
It really is. My son wants to be a barber, he's informing. I'm like, crack on, lad, if
Great.
that's what you want to do,
Oh,
go for it.
amazing.
You know, and then
No,
in a year you
honestly.
can get a Saturday job. That's great. People are always going to need their hair cutting.
Exactly. This is the thing that I said about hairdressers. Like, I know so many people and they're absolutely killing it. They're doing brilliant.
Yeah. But people look at him like, a barber, really? Yeah, why not?
Why? Why?
At
You're
least
never
he's
gonna...
not saying he wants to be a YouTuber like everybody else.
Oh my God, I can't. I can't.
Although he could do his barbering on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Kind of kill both.
See, there's a business idea. You've got it.
With a hovering mum in the background, making sure that he earns me the money.
I love it. Brilliant.
Oh, that's it's really good to talk to you. I think you've given me some really good food for thought. And I think this is what's really great about these interviews is everybody's so different. And yeah, I think I probably, before speaking to you, would have put everybody who did well at GCSEs and A levels. Well, you know what you're doing, crack on.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Not me. No, definitely not. No.
And yeah, how lost you can get within the establishments. You know, you've done well, but what's the establishment then done for you? Because you've ticked all those boxes of what they're telling you to do. You've got your languages, you've done well, you've probably got your GCSE maths and English and sciences. Yeah. You're cracking on to your A levels, but where's it going to take you? Because you've still not got your interest peaked.
Yeah, not at all.
The system has still not done its job for you.
No.
And it's only by chance your great dad dragged you along kicking.
Literally, my dad dragged me almost kicking and screaming to Bolton, and then it's just worked out wonderfully. Like you say, my director of studies, who I've stayed with for how many years, is degree, masters, now PhD, and just loved every second of it. So I think thank my dad, really.
Oh, shout out to Dad.
Shout out to Dad. He's in the back room working. I don't know if he'll hear me, but